What's going on, guys? Bryce Young here. Thank you, one, for your time and watching this video. Two, for all that you do for the sport of lacrosse in South Jersey, and continuing to help grow the game throughout the area. Uh, Coaching lacrosse and coaching in general, not easy. We don't get paid millions of dollars. We do this either because we love the sport. Um, have sons or daughters that play the sport, or just have a general passion for coaching in general. So again, thank you. We're going to talk about coaching youth lacrosse, uh, and just a little background of my coaching experience. Started off coaching South Shore lacrosse 10 years ago, when I first got to college in 2014, the fall. Have coached, with them for the last 10 years. On top of that, first job out of college was at St. Augustine Prep coaching along JC Valor. From there, I went and spent 2 years at High Point University, on staff there coaching with the Panthers. Other than that, I've been in the high school realm now, going on to my third year. And on top of that, I've done personal training from youth all the way to college level players for the last 10 years plus. So I've seen a lot. There's definitely guys out there that have way more coaching experience than me. I just feel like I'm super grateful to have experienced the different levels of the sport, and along the way met some great people, mentors of the game, and coaches alike, as well as players, that one gave me a super uh, in-depth perspective of the sport on the coaching side, um, and guys that are still some of my best friends to this day. So let's get into it. First thing, let's talk about the coaching models. I don't think that's something we really think about as coaches a lot, when we go to practice, when we're thinking about a season, but there are definitely different types of coaching models. One, uh, the first form, that sandlot backyard model, I equate this to pickup games in the backyard, three by, if we're talking in terms of lacrosse, pickup, 3-on-3 with mini nets. Um, so what do they get out of the sandlot model? Um, in the sandlot model, they're learning skills on their own to solve problems. Right? They're not being given a skill set. They're not being given drills. They're figuring out things on their own, and having fun and creating their own rules, and playing. And it doesn't take pads. It takes a stick, tennis ball, lacrosse ball. Could throwing it against a wall, throwing it against a target, 2-on-2, 1-on-1 even. Um, you know, it's the most efficient model of playing, because you don't need a lot of space, equipment, drills, coaches, anything like that. And you can play whenever. The pass it down model. This is, I feel like, a good part of where we are in South Jersey. Um, just in terms of coaching models, not a lot of us have played, which is one, a great thing in the terms of you're buying into um, a sport that you didn't grow up playing, but you care for it, and you're here to get better. So dads, like dads figuring out stuff through YouTube, online tutorials, conferences, and passing it down to the next generation of players. Older guys, on a team that have a certain skill, certain set of things that they do well, or IQ, that they can pass down to their younger players on their team. Like that's part of the pass it down model. And then the game model, right? Game model is the skills, IQ, and development that we get from playing games. So when we look at the game model throughout different sports like soccer, hockey, box lacrosse, you look at the amount of games that are played throughout their season, club ball, youth ball, whatever it may be. And you kind of look at their growth process. The sport of lacrosse and field lacrosse, the game model does not work, right? And we can boil it down to the simple thing is there's not enough touches. There is not enough touches. They'll maybe get some IQ, develop some IQ through playing consistently and a lot through the game model, but they won't learn that skill. And that skill development process kind of will be hindered if we're just relying on games. So if you look at hockey, or if you look at soccer, or if you look at box lacrosse, soccer in the essence of like small-sided games, futsal inside, box lacrosse, there's a lot of touches in box lacrosse with the shorter dimensions, field space, shot clock, lends to more touches. Same thing in futsal, shorter dimensions, more touches, back and forth action. The more touches lead to development, more touches. And then we have the coaching model. The coaching model is great. That's why I'm in here. It's what I'm passionate about. The coaching model is really only, and I'll touch on this later, is really only super effective with competent coaches. Now, the great thing about the coaching model is organization, the mentorship, the skills, drills, and concepts that kids will learn through this coaching model. But the coach has to know what he's doing. And a coach also has to be a mastermind and master the practice plan. So great coaching. They're always prepared. Master of the practice plan, hyper aware of reps. And here's the biggest part in my opinion. They put player development over winning. Now, we've all come across the program where a guy has maybe a bigger, more athletic kid at the midfield, and is quite simply get this kid the ball, watch him run through 5 checks and score every time, while the rest of his teammates stand around and watch him do it. That is not helping anyone's development on the field, and 2, kind of hindering the growth of the sport in the area, because we want to quote unquote win a league game or a second grade, third grade, fourth grade, sixth grade game. So keep that in mind. I have 1,000 of these little papers, notebooks on notebooks that I have filled out since I started coaching, on practice plans, ideas, everything. This is a short practice plan for one of our Sixes mini camps for South Jersey Sixes. I literally have notebooks filled of practice plans everywhere. Like that's all I think about when we talk about coaching and preparing for practice, and how we're going to get better. So being able to construct a practice plan, and we'll talk more about what goes into a great practice plan and how to master that later on down the line. And then a coach that lets the games or drills that they're playing do the teaching. I think a great coach Yeah, I'll move on to the next one. What are we facing in youth lacrosse right now, especially in the South Jersey area? The facts are the Sandlot model works. The coaching model works. The Sandlot and coaching model blended together is probably the most ideal. The Sandlot model is dead and gone. Kids aren't playing in the backyard. And the coaching model only works if we have competent coaches. So, how do we fix that? You know, uh, I have been a guy that has been going from coaching at a high level, coming where I came from in college, where that was probably the most in depth I've ever been taught anything uh, in terms of playing defense, clearing, riding, learning offenses. Um, that I'll ever come across. I tried to apply that to every level, and I was sadly mistaken. Um, and it took me a while to figure out that I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing it right, and not everyone learns um, like I did or my teammates did at Maryland, um, especially at the youth level. And it's crazy, but that was my approach to it. Is like I'm going to take these high level concepts and apply it to these young kids, youth through high school and beyond, and that's just not the way to go about it. So, you know, how can we switch that? What can we do to answer that question on the previous page, or answer that problem that's on the previous place? We can consider resurrecting the Sandlot or the backyard model at practice, right? Through small-sided games, um, where you're just giving them rules or terms and letting them play. Um, and then keep stats, touches, touches. This is my big thing in terms of practice planning and skill development. The more touches these kids get in a 10-minute, 5-minute drill, right, the better, right? If you're doing let's say, shooting drill and you're teaching a concept and the kid shoots 5 balls, he's not learning anything. Right. This also goes back to why I'm a huge fan of the sixes format, uh, and calling back futsal and box lacrosse. There are so many touches that are happening in the span of 45 minutes to an hour, that kids are going to figure things out. They're going to suck at it first. They're going to figure it out, and then they're going to start to apply it and get better and better and better just in a span of 20 minutes. In a span of 20 minutes, right? The amount of reps they can get are tenfold compared to a game model or scrimmaging in practice or XYZ. This is another thing. I was also a coach that needed to coach up every rep, stop the drill, coach up a mistake. Um, and that wasn't advantageous for the players at all. So when you're going through a practice, keep in mind how much you're stopping practice to talk. I, more than anyone else, like to hear myself talk. Um, I think it's a running joke in my family. Like that's why I got into coaching. I also found out pretty fast that like I'm just hindering my kids' ability to grow and develop in an expedited way. The kids are going to learn through the reps, right? Give them rules, right? Give them ways of looking at the game, let them play it, and they will figure it out, right? So, big things, big things we need to keep in mind, right? When we're thinking about youth lacrosse. One, we got to keep it fun. This is a game. They are in middle school. No one's getting looked at by colleges. No one's getting recruited. No one's going pro right now, right? So the biggest thing is to keep it fun and keep it in perspective for the families. Like I think everyone realizes that parents can be a little wacky, but keep it in perspective. Always make sure you're keeping it fun for their kid. They feel like they're in a place where they're loved, and they feel like in a place where they're having fun, enjoying the game, and getting a little better. Reps, talked about reps, count them. This is my next thing, especially with youth lacrosse. Right? Can they catch? Right? If not, what can they do? And the answer is a lot. So I'm big on the Bill Belichick line. Right? I don't tell me what a guy can't do. Tell me what a guy can do. Right? And we'll find a role for him. Same thing applies in youth lacrosse. And you guys, more than anyone know, there's a lot of drills that we would like to do, but are hindered because our players can't catch and throw. Guess what? There are a ton of things, drills, small-sided games, games in general that we could do with our kids that will help with their skill development in a very fun way, even if they can't catch and throw. And this is something, the last one I've learned throughout my years, from youth players all the way up to pros. They learn skills way better than they learn X's and O's, right? So when we're talking about practice planning, repping out things, drills, right? Keep it small-sided. Keep it small-sided. If we look at the game of lacrosse, we don't want to look big picture. We want to look small moments. And a lot of the things that we do in small parts, right, quickly are picked up by kids, right, and applied to games and big picture concepts, right? So keep that in mind. When we're thinking about practice planning, right, a couple things we want to think about is our environment, right? So we dictate the environment for our kids, right? We dictate the drills, the terms of the drills. Can you do this opposed to this in a drill? Is there time constraints? Like, we dictate the environment. Is the length of a stick, the amount of numbers, is it even, is it uneven? All of that dictates the environment for our players. Reps, tempo, mobilization. This is big with youth lacrosse, and I'll explain why it's big, and I'll touch on it. We don't want to be out there for 3 hours, right? These kids, right, hour to hour and 45, depending on the age, right? Reps are the biggest thing. Tempo, going from, or how fast we get off reps, right? And then mobilization, going from drill to drill. Are we set up? Do our coaches know what's going on next, right? And how fast can we get? I know getting first, second, third, fourth graders is like herding cats, but how fast can we get these kids from drill to drill and moving in the span of an hour to an hour and 45 minutes? Power of the natural side. I think too early do we stress the importance of being two-handed. Kids in first through fourth grade are going to struggle catching and throwing, right? So empower the natural side, the strong hand, right? And they'll find creative ways in certain situations, right, to make it work, right, by keeping it in their strong hand. So just keep that in mind. If we empower the Sandlot backyard coaching model, or backyard model, the all position, no position, positionless drills, concepts, having defensemen play offense, offense play defense, will greatly benefit these players further down the line. So if a fourth grader ever came up to me and goes, "I am a attackman," I would laugh in his face, right? So one, we squash that. They'll be so better off playing both sides of the ball and learning both sides of the ball in these younger formative ages than later on down the line. Fun games, keeping it fun, right? We sharks and minnows, musical ground balls, tag. All of these things can be incorporated into a practice plan. We might think it's something we just do at a summer camp to keep these kids happy. But there are a lot of skills that we will learn from these things and these small games that will translate to the field. And the other thing, it's fun, right? So we want to keep that in mind when coaching youth players. And then every uneven drill that we do, we're going to treat it like it's even. And I'll kind of explain that later down the line. But first, practice planning. Youth coach practice planning. All right. Choose your practice plan, master your practice plan. We talked about it before. Drill setup, mobilization, what they're getting out of the drill. You understanding what they're getting out of the drill helps with the next one. Recognizing drill terms. So instead of teaching, right, we apply rules to drills. So like in hash to hash passing, if we say one touch, right, I don't have to say elbow up, right? We're going to snap over the top, right? Soft hands to catch. Right? If I say one touch, right, one, right, we're going to throw it over the top, right? You're aiming for his ear because to one touch it back, right, it needs to be at his ear. And to one touch it, you have to have soft hands, right? So if we say one touch, right, and the rule is to one touch it, right, that expedites the whole teaching thing of, okay, we're going to break down a whole catch and throw, and then letting them just play. And then in the drill itself, what adjustments can we make? All right. And then the next thing, attention to both sides of the ball. So in the drills that I have laid out for you guys in a drill bank, there's always teaching points on both sides of the ball, right? So if it seems like it's favoring one side, right, or for coach is just coaching up the offense, right, take the time, right, to explain to the other side of the ball the importance of a rule like keeping guys out of the middle of the field, right? Defensively, keeping your stick out in front, backpedaling, just make sure we're paying attention to both sides. And then layering, like we do a small sided we do a one-on-one approach drill, right? That just works on attacking an approach, getting to the middle, right? Let's do a next layer is boom. Let's add a face dodge to it or a roll dodge, right? And see if the kids can pick up on it. And attacking the alley and seeing if they can get back to the middle. So being able to layer a skill into another drill or small-sided game into another drill, a small-sided game is super important. And then practice planning, like what makes a good practice plan? One, we gotta analyze a couple things, like age of players, first, second graders, third, fourth graders, fifth through eighth. How many players do I have? How many of each position? Do I have balls, cones, tennis balls, goalies, blocking pads? Number of coaches. Am I by myself? Am I solo? There's only so many things that you can do solo. And then goalies. Goalies is a big one. If we're gonna be shooting as offensive players, which we want to do a lot of in small-sided games and small-sided drills, right? We want to make sure we're shooting on a goalie. If you don't have a goalie, a dad that wants to jump in there with a stick and have guys shoot tennis balls at him, it was not a bad alternate. So keep that in mind. So the next part of this, right? And this goes back to the question if they can catch. First and second graders, they can't catch. All right. You guys been around the sport, they cannot catch. And that's okay. There are so many things that they can do with the ball. In terms of picking up ground balls, dodging, defending, there is an ample amount of things that you can do with that age group to help with their skill development. Third and fourth graders, they may be able to catch, but not as frequent as older guys. So if we're thinking about putting a 3-on-4 into our practice, plan, and they have to connect 3 passes, we may not get a lot out of that. So just keep that in mind. Fifth and sixth, seventh and eighth, they're more inclined to be able to catch and throw. So incorporating dodging ground ball aspects, and then 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, um, fast paced up and down 3-on-3s. All of those should be able to apply to that age group. And then the last thing, practice length. I know my high schoolers right now, I can't go past 90 minutes. And those are 15 to 18-year-olds. First and second graders, third and fourth graders, their attention span is not that great. And you guys that have been coaching for a while know that. So keep that in mind when practice planning and thinking about the practice length. Fifth through eighth graders, they can go a little bit longer. But if we're out there for 2 hours, it's probably not great. And you're probably not getting anything out of them the last hour. So keep that in mind as well. Now I have a couple more videos coming out, kind of detailing my philosophy around a practice plan, what a practice plan looks like, drills for that first through fourth grade group, that don't include passing and catching, and all the things they could be doing, small-sided drills, 1-on-1s, 2v1s, all of those things in video form, with a drill bank, and then that 5 through 6. I have a whole drill bank of skill development drills and concepts for each side of the ball. When you break up and you do some skill development time on the defense and offensive side of the ball, I have a whole drill bank. I will break that up into 2 separate videos. So make sure you check in check in on that if you coach those age groups.